So tonight we are going to focus on compound interest. And can I just see in the chat if you can raise your hand if you are familiar with compound interest, if you've heard of it before, if you've learned it before, just raise your hand or put a thumbs up in the chat. Grade 9. If you haven't learned it, please put a thumbs down. Just want to get a sense in the class. Okay, so there's a few of you who haven't quite encountered it, but not to worry, you will be learning it this year. So you will get if you haven't learned it yet, you are getting a bit of a head start on the rest of the people at your school, which is always nice. And if you have done it before, that's great. We're going to cover the basics, but we are also going to ramp it up a little bit so that we get around to doing some challenges as well. Okay, so let's start off with just recapping what compound interest is. So compound interest has to do with the interest that you earn if you put money away, or if you are borrowing money, then interest gets added onto the amount that you borrow or the amount that you put away. Now, compound means it gets the interest gets added on the interest from the previous time period. So your money ends up growing exponentially as compared to simple interest, where you just get interest calculated on the original amount and not on the total amount as the interest grows and as you keep adding to it. Okay, so here's our formula for compound interest, and this might be familiar to you, and take a screenshot if you want. And by the way, through the course of the lesson, you're welcome to take some screenshots. So let's just recap what each of these variables mean. So A means the same as what it did for simple interest. It's what you have at the end of the time period. And then P is the principal amount. That is what you put away. And that's what you start off with. Interest, I is your interest rate. And then N, in this case, has to do with how many times you earn interest. So if it's also the number of years that you put the money away, so the duration of the investment. But if the compounding period changes from annually to like monthly or quarterly or semi-annually, like we're going to discuss now in our upcoming questions, then that has to do with the amount of times you're actually going to earn interest. Okay, right. Let's start our first question. And I hope you have your calculator ready. Oops. And let's have a look at this first question. Okay, so Stephen invested $5,1200 at 12% per annum compounded annually. Calculate the final amount that he obtained after investing it for 4 years. Okay, so I'm going to write our formula at the top here, and I'm not going to write it each time, okay? So maybe you can also just write it at the top of your page. And we can go through the question and identify our variables. So 5,200, that's what we start off with. 12% is I, our interest rate, and this is important. It's just compounded annually. And this is important. That's the number of years. That's going to be N. Okay, so let's work this out. Pop your answer in the chat when you are ready. Use our formula to do that. Okay, hi Chinamiram. I'll try and remember that that's you. So 5,200 is our principal amount. we change our interest rate to 12% and we raise it to the power of n, which is 4. Let's see some more answers. We are 55 strong, regardless of the load shedding. Well done, guys. Well done for persevering like this. Okay, so we get 8182,3. Wonderful. Okay. Now, let's go to question 2. Yes, you must round to 2 decimal places. I just left off the 0. Okay. Right, everybody, let's go on to question 2. Jason, invest 15,000. Do that one. Pop your answer in the chat when you're done. That's right. I say it is for 19 years. So use 19 years for your N. Okay, so we go 15,000. Looks like most of you are on the money here, literally. 15,000. And it's 1 plus 0.11. And we don't need to do anything there. Okay. And it's to the power of 19 because there's 19 years from his 21st birthday till his 40th birthday. So 108,950,16. I agree with that. Okay. Now that's when you are getting interest annually. So when you are getting interest at a different time period, that can also happen. So annually means once a year. But you can also sometimes get interest compounded quarterly, semi-annually, or monthly. Now, what that means is that the interest rate, so say the bank quotes you an interest rate, that interest rate gets split over the time period that you are getting interest compounded. So if it is compounded quarterly, it means that your interest rate is going to get divided by 4 because it gets compounded quarterly. So you will literally, your interest is going to get calculated by the bank every 3 months. So that will end up being 4 times a year. So if we can draw it on a little diagram maybe. So if this is 1 year and we are compounding quarterly like we are doing in this question, you're going to get interest over here, over here, over here, and over here. Okay, so that's why we end up with interest being compounded 4 times a year. So I'm just going to maybe change that to a little star. Okay, so that's what the compounding means. So let's look at this example. He has just turned 15. His parents give him 20,000 Rand that they invest at 7%, compounded quarterly until he is 21. How much does he have when he is 21? Okay, so we can tell that there is 6 years that pass, and our principal amount is 20,000. Our interest rate is 0.07, but because it is compounded quarterly, we need to divide that interest rate by 4. And in this case, so there's 6 years between him turning 15 and him turning 21. So 6 years, but because of the compounding that happens 4 times a year, quarterly, we have to times the 6 years by 4 to get 24. Okay, just put a thumbs up in the chat if you all understand that about the compounding quarterly and dividing the interest rate and timesing the years by 4. Okay, if you're not sure, pop a question in the chat or pop a question to Miss Coco as well. She'll also be able to help you. Okay, so let's work out what he has got in his bank account when he turns 21. So it's 20,000 and it's 1 plus 0.07 divided by 4 to the power of 24. And let's see what that is worth. Guys, he's 15. He keeps his money till he's 21. It's 6 years. That's where the 6 came from. And please just follow along because it can get frustrating for everyone if I have to keep explaining this over and over. So, and listen carefully, okay? So I said about the quarterly, and I drew the diagram here for you as well to show you that when we compound quarterly, we take our interest rate and we divide it by 4 because every 3 months, you're going to get some interest. That's what compounded quarterly means. Okay, so that's why we are dividing the interest rate by 4. And because you are getting interest 4 times a year, and there are 6 years, we times the 6 years by 4. Okay, so I hope that's clear. We are going to do more examples, but we always divide the interest rate by 4 if it's quarterly, and we times the years by 4 if it's quarterly, because of that compounding that happens 4 times a year. Exactly, Shiraz. It's in your favor if you are saving, but it's not in your favor if you are borrowing money. Okay, so let's get back to the answer. I also get 30328,86. Okay, right. Let's go on. We're going to do another one now. This is with monthly. So if you are compounding monthly, how many times a year do you think you are going to get interest calculated? 12 times. That's right, because it's monthly. So what are we going to divide our interest rate by? Put it in the chat if you know. Thanks, Shiraz. Everyone else, participate. Remember about the thing about participation. Okay. And then N, so let's read this one. 8,800 Rand is invested for 3 years at an interest rate of 7.5% per year, compounded monthly. Okay, so now we're going to take that interest rate, the 7.5%, which we turn into a decimal, and it's going to be split over the 12 months of the year. So we have to divide it by 12. And because this now happens 12 times a year, and you're putting your money away for 3 years, you're going to get interest compounded or calculated 12 times in each year. So in 3 years, you'll get interest calculated and compounded 36 times. So then we go to our formula and we go 8,800, 1 plus 0.075 divided by 12 to the power of 36. Okay, Shraz is quick there with the answer. Check again, guys. You need to divide your interest rate by 12. Munete, you also, Shiraj, you need to recalculate. That's not quite right. Just do that again. Check that you remember to divide your interest rate by 12 and that you times your years by 12 so that you work with the 36. Pop your answer in the chat if you have it. Okay, I agree with the 11,012,73. If you are getting something different to that, you need to just check that you are using all the correct values. And remember, you can take some screenshots of the bubbles with all the different terms in it. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is semi-annually. So semi-annually means that, so where we had quarterly, that was 4 times, monthly was 12 times, semi-annually is going to be twice a year. So we're going to take our interest rate and split it over the year and get interest twice. So we need to divide that interest rate by 2. And then our years, because we are getting interest twice a year, every year, and there are 4 years, we're going to get interest 8 times. So we can put that straight into our formula. 9,800 is our principal amount, and our interest rate is 0.06 divided by 2 because it's semi-annually, and then the N is 4 years, but it is compounded semi-annually, so that is 8. Okay, and let's work that out. Pop your answer in the chat when you have it. Wonderful. I agree, guys. That's it. Well done. Okay, we're going to do a quick practice round for all of this. Okay, you can start with the first question. How How much will James have in his account if he invests 10,500 at 10.5% per annum for 7 years? Okay, so this is all compound interest. So you can start with that first one, and you can also do the second one as well. So the second one is monthly. So there you have to think about the dividing of the interest rate and the timesing of the years. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes enough, Miss Coco, I think. Yeah, maybe 3. 3 minutes.
They're very fast. Give them a minute. Okay, I'm kidding. Yeah, 3 minutes sounds fair.
3 minutes. Yeah, it's a minute and a half each. So don't pop your answers in the chat yet. Just hold them until our 3 minutes are up, and then we will check in and see what you guys got. Yeah, so if it doesn't ask for, if it doesn't say semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, then it's just annually. Dikonketso, we will use the last few minutes of the lesson to go back for screenshots. Right, 3 minutes are up. And Shiraz is first with her answers. Yes. Let's see. Let's see the answer for the first one. Pop it into the chat if you've got it. I'm going to switch colors to green. So our principal amount is 10,500. And we've got 10.5% to the power of 7. And I agree, I also get 21,121,52. Great. Excellent, guys. Mark yours ticket if you got it right. Okay, let's go on to the next one. How much will I have in my account if I invest 8,950 for 4 years at 8% per annum compounded monthly? So I am putting away 8,950. And my interest rate is 8%, but I am compounding monthly, so I need to split that interest rate over 12 months. And then the 4 years I need to times by 12, because that's how many times I'm actually going to be earning interest. So let's see what that comes to. I see a few answers in the chat. Seems like everyone's in agreement. Let's just get confirmation. And confirmation is 12312,21. Well done, great teens. Oh, I'm not sure how people got the 9191. I think there's something there either with the interest rate that you didn't divide or with the years that you didn't times. Okay. So if you got a different answer, check your calculation. Check your calculation. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you are feeling good about this and if it's making sense. And you're also free to give a thumbs down if you're still feeling unsure. Ms. Coco, could you help some Piwe maybe? Okay, wonderful. Right, so we're going to move on and we are going to look at solving for the other variables. So what we've been doing up to now is we've just been working out what A is, what we have at the end. But sometimes we have that value. We know what we have at the end or what we want to save towards, and we want to know how much must I put away now to get to that value. So that means we need to know how to solve for P. So let's see. How much must I invest to have 45,000 Rand in 5 years if interest is compounded at 9% per annum? Okay, I'm going to do this first one with you. And let's start with our formula, which is this one, which you've now seen many times. So I want to have 45,000. So that is my A value. P is the principal amount. How much must I put away? That I don't know. So we're going to leave it as P. And our interest rate is compound interest of 9%. And our N is 5 years. So don't worry here about monthly, whatever it doesn't get mentioned. So it's just annually. Okay. So to solve for P, what do you guys think? How will I isolate the P? How will I get it by itself? Put it in the chat if you have some thoughts, or raise your hand and talk to us. Tell us what you are thinking. What should we do? Amy's got her hand up. Yes, Amy, what do you think?
I was thinking that, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking that we are gonna divide both sides by 1 plus 0.09 to the power 5.
Wonderful. Yes, that is exactly what we're going to do. Well done. Okay, so we divide this side by the bracket to the power of 5. And if I do it on one side, I must also do it on the other side because of the equal sign. Okay. And then we get P on its own. Okay, let's all work out what that is. Pop your answer in the chat if you've got it. Well done, Amy. I agree, 29,246,91. Great. Okay. Right, next one on your own. I'm going to leave you for about a minute to do question 2 on your own. We'll check back in, hold your answers, please, or it can also Conisa has a question. You can unmute.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I wanted to ask if it's okay if we first solve for the 1 plus 0, and then say P equals, and then you get the P.
Yes, it is, but you must use you mustn't round when you divide, okay? So if you work out what the bracket to the power of 5 is, you must keep that whole number on your calculator or use the answer button so that you divide the 45,000 by the complete number. Don't round it. You must only round at the end, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, pop your answer in the chat for this one if you've got it. So we're going to divide the 100,000 by 1 plus 0.0105 to the power of 6 to get our p value. Yeah, I get the 54,932 that you guys also get. So well done with that. If you are not getting that, I see there's a 55. I think that was just a mistake. You're 54. Nice, everybody. Okay, let's do one more. And this time we're going to compound quarterly. Not too much of a change. I'm sure we can manage it. I'm going to be quiet and not say anything and see if you guys can manage, which I'm sure you can. Shiraz is, oh shucks. Nah, it's the same. Just think about what you have to divide and times by. You can do it, guys. Yes. That should be like our sigil, the arm with the fire. The sigil for this class. Strength and fire. When you're ready, pop your answer in the chat. You don't have to wait. I'm going to wait 30 more seconds before I start. Well done, Yenzi. Yenzi's first. Everyone else who was so quiet, I hope you're trying. Remember what we said at the start, you got to try. Okay, so got our 20K at the end that we want. Our P is not known at this point. Our interest rate is 11. We're going to need to divide that by 4 because we are compounding quarterly. And then our years, we have 5 years, but we are compounding quarterly. So we need to times that 5 by 4 to get 20. There's lots of different answers coming in, but that's basically what it comes down to. And then we're going to divide our 20,000 by 1 plus 0.11 over 4 to the power of 20. And that's going to give you P. That's okay, Shiraz. I'm not quite sure what that compounding would be called. Monthly -1, maybe. Okay, excellent, good stuff. So what else did I have for you this evening? Yes, P must be smaller than A, Kutlana. Let me just read what's in the chat. Okay, a few of you got this answer. Again, if you got something different, just check where you went wrong with the division and the timesing. Okay. Yeah, if your p-value comes out bigger than your a value, then it's a problem. So it's a way to check. Well done, Kutlana. You've just given the class a nice tip there. Okay. What else did I have here for you? The interest rate, solving for the interest rate. I think we're going to leave that for Thursday. I do want to show you that as well. That's quite important. So I think for good measure, let's do this last one, and then Ms. Koko can launch the poll. Right, last one. Yeah, Chinamirum. That was the previous question. So we're now doing question 4. Yes, throw answers at us. Let's have it. Let's have answers. Remember, your P must be smaller than your A. Oh, we're getting so many different answers here. We are compounding monthly, grade 10, so we must divide our interest rate by 12 and times our years by 12. So 40,000, and if your P is coming out bigger than your A, there's a problem. Because then means you've lost money somewhere. Okay, 1 plus our interest rate is 0.08. We're compounding monthly, so we must divide by 12, and then we must times our years by 12 as well. So it's a times and a divide, times and divide, times and divide. So P will be 40 divided by that bracket, and let's see which one of you win the prize this evening. I'm joking, there's no prize, sorry. Just bragging rights, that's all. 40,000.
Very cheap. Very cheap.
To the power of 7 times 12, which is 84. 2280, well done. 22890, 86. Yes, well done.